Hey, you ready?
Let's do this.
Ready,
Steady.
remake.
Hey everyone, welcome to Ready Steady Remake. It's the podcast where each week we take a film, we love it, we hate it, and then we remake it. As always, I'm your host, Richard Kelly, and I'm joined by my co-host, the intergalactic, out of this world, it's Rachel Tomo Thompson.
Yes,
And
mate.
if you're watching this, you can see him already. We've got a special, not just guest, but he's hosting with us. He's doing the whole show. It's the one, the only. He's below me. It's the Professor Ben Cosgrove.
Yes.
Woo, woo, woo. What's happening, everybody?
What's happening, Ben? Welcome back.
What's happening? I thought I'd do it in the arts bar today, guys. I don't know if you can see over my shoulder there.
We can see
while
it.
we're doing the visuals, I'll give you something nice to look at in the background. You know what I mean?
I love it.
That sounds like it's a great time for a plug. Ben, tell us a little bit about where you are there.
So I come from a group of people, and we call ourselves the Liverpool Arts Bar. We run an arts bar on 22 Hope Street, and it's basically everything: music, dance, theatre, all the arts. Come down, check us out post-lockdown.
Yes, mate. So
Is that
listen,
all right? I don't know.
that's
You know?
perfect, Ben. Absolutely perfect. So, mate, just then before we get into film stuff, how are you? How's it been?
Me?
Yeah, you?
Oh yeah, it's not been great, has it?
No, mate.
we had a little chat off air then and just proper depressed ourselves.
No, mate. All right, moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys. Anyone listening, life's hard. Hopefully, Ready Steady Remake can make you forget your worries for about 38 to 40 minutes. So, Rach, tell the lovely listeners, what film are we doing this week?
Okay, guys, this week we are doing a 2014 American-British epic science fiction movie directed and produced by Christopher Nolan. It stars Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, Michael Caine, Jessica Chastain, and loads of others we'll talk about. Set in a dystopian future where humanity is struggling to survive, sounds about like right now, in an ecological and biological disaster. This film follows a group of astronauts through a wormhole in search of a new home for mankind. It had a budget of $165 million, and it went on to gross $701 million. It won the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects and was nominated for Best Original Score by the genius of Hans Zimmer. I forgot his name then. Deemed a soulful must-see masterpiece. Do not go gentle into that good night. It's Interstellar, guys.
A little late, Coop.
Yeah, we had a flash.
It's an Indian surveillance drone. Solar cells power an entire farm.
What'd you do, Murph?
She didn't do nothing.
Murphy's Law.
You're a well-educated man, Coop, and a trained pilot.
And an engineer.
The world doesn't need any more engineers. We didn't run out of planes and television sets. We ran out of food.
Dad, why did you name me after something that's bad?
Oh, we didn't.
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law doesn't mean that something bad will happen. It means that whatever can happen will happen.
We must confront the reality that nothing in our solar system can help us.
Now you need to tell me what your plan is to save the world.
Guys, it's Interstellar. Now, the reason we're doing this is a film that Rach, I don't think I'm safe to say that you love this, Rach. You're a fan of Interstellar. Rach is a huge fan of space in general. I'm sure this has been brought up on the show before. But as always, let's begin the podcast where we begin the podcast. Rach, remember the first time you saw Interstellar?
Yeah. I remember,
Yeah.
I remember the exact moment I watched this film. So yeah, 2014, when it came out, I went to see it at our very own The Plaza Cinema, which we shout out about it all the time. Shout out to Plaza. So went there, and I was really excited about this film for a couple of reasons. Because one, Matthew McConaughey is in it, and I'm a huge fan of him. Two, it's Christopher Nolan. And three, it was about space. So I was like, what can possibly go wrong with this movie?
Ticks all the boxes, Rich.
Ticks all the boxes. And honestly, guys, I remember leaving the cinema very, very late because it was a long movie. And just, I think my world absolutely just fell out. It just, I couldn't believe what I had literally just watched. Like, it blew my mind in so many ways that I had to go straight home and watch a documentary about the science of Interstellar. Because don't get me wrong, there was a lot of stuff that I was like, what? And I think with having watched it multiple times since, I think I'm almost getting my head around the science of it. But visually, it's just the most stunning thing I've ever seen in my life. The soundtrack is absolutely incredible. And for me, probably what I am predicting may be the problem for Rich is that it was a perfect marriage of science and heart and love. And I loved it.
Ben.
Wow.
Ben, we'll get into it. Ben, do you remember the first time you saw Interstellar?
Yeah, mate, I saw it in the IMAX in Liverpool, just because I was a big Nolan fan, mainly because of the Batmans. Dark Knight come out before this. That was his film before that, wasn't it? Yeah, so big fan of Nolan already. And a recent graduate of the Liverpool University as an astrophysics graduate, master's graduate, I was hella into the science of it. And yeah, as Rach said, I kind of left going, the first time I watched it, I left going, well, that was a load of old bollocks, the ending wise, just because it wasn't crystal clear to me what they were trying to achieve by that. But as I said, I texted Rach last night saying I rewatched it again yesterday, and actually understanding more what they're trying to achieve by the science behind it. I kind of can get behind the ending a bit more. And so watching it a second time, because I didn't watch it from seeing it in the cinema until last night.
Wow.
Again, and yeah, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Probably liked it more last night than I did the first time I watched it.
Nice.
Very good. I remember the first time I saw Interstellar, and I did not respond well to it. I remember telling Rach I didn't like it. I watched Interstellar. I finished it for the second time about half an hour ago. I've just watched it again with fresh eyes, and I've come away with a very different opinion on Interstellar than the first time that I saw it. Do not get me wrong. I think it's a bizarre film, because there are things in this film that I think are excellent. And then there are things in this film that leave me just cold and baffled and just confused as to why it's in there and the choices that are made. So guys, let's get into it. Let's talk Interstellar and what we like about it and what we don't like about it. I'll start first.
Are we ready for this, Ben?
I know, yeah. We've already said Rich is going to tear this film a new one, so
I'm actually not. Right, let's get right. So let's get out the things that I think the things that I think are great. I think the cast are excellent. Christopher Nolan, you can't fault him. This film, from a visual point of view, from a cinematography point of view, pretty much flawless. I mean, it looks incredible. The space design, the sciencey stuff, the rotation, the 2001 Space Odyssey influences, love it. This is where my problems begin, right? What the fuck is this film all about? Right. What is it either? I can't get behind like Tomo says, the marriage of the science and the heart of it. I am so in this film, and they're on a planet, and there's a tidal wave coming, and I'm like, yeah, and then suddenly it cuts, and I'm on Earth watching this depressing story with people talking about maths and slowing the whole thing down, and then it jumps back to where I want it to go again, and I feel like it keeps getting in the way of itself. Every time I'm in it, and I'm like, every time they're on a spaceship and they're talking about saving the world, I'm so invested. And whenever it cuts back to the farm or Michael Caine,
I was going to say Michael Caine.
yeah, I'm just like, I'm sorry, guys, but you lost me. If this film cut out all of that stuff, I think it would be a better film. Now, I can appreciate that is purely a taste kind of thing, because Rach, I can understand why you might be someone who goes, nah, I need that heart. But unfortunately, it's a film of two halves. And half, I think I love, and half is meh. That's my thing.
And do you know what? Fair enough, mate. I think that's a fair comment, and that is your opinion.
It is. It is.
I can see where you're coming from with the, you know, the Michael Caine, the maths bit, that, you know, that bit. But I think I don't think there's an awful lot of that. I think the ride is mainly the ride to the different planets and that journey. And I think it just keeps knitting it back to Earth and just reminding us the reason, you know, why, you know, this is being done is for humanity, you know, for people back on Earth. And obviously, Christopher Nolan, you know, likes of Inception. It's something, he always brings family into his films, doesn't he? You know, he always has, you know, that connection. And I just think personally, I really, really enjoyed that Murph Coop kind of connection throughout, and that kind of discovery of seeing Murph as a, you know, as an adult, and, you know, that message when she's like, I'm the same age as you now, Dad, when you said you were going to come back. Like, to me, that was like, yeah, that got me, do you know what I mean?
My argument to that would be, imagine if all we ever saw were just Coop's videos on the ship. And over time, he comes back, and suddenly the videos are now of an old guy and an old woman. That, for me, is far more impactful than it keep cutting back to Casey Affleck on the farm refusing to let his mother and daughter get treated by a doctor. So she sets a farm on fire so Topher Grace can kidnap his family. Like, all that is happening while somebody's flying into a black hole. Like, you don't need to cut back to that. That's just my opinion. Ben, what are your thoughts?
I'm in between the two of you, actually. I think the science, for me, falls down, and that's something that annoys me about it, and it takes me out of it. The whole Michael Caine thing is, as far as I'm aware, irrelevant. That could all go, because it turns out, I mean, spoiler alert for everybody that hasn't seen it, but what are you listening to this for if you haven't seen the film? Turns out that every bit of work that he's done, it's irrelevant.
It's pointless, yeah.
There's no point to it. And so what was the point in, he could have just been there and said, I haven't got it. I haven't got the answers, but hopefully this time, by the time you get back to us, we'll have it.
But
there's no need for that.
I don't think he would have gone then. I think because a common kind of message throughout the film is about this, the human instinct of survival, and basically what you're willing to go to keep surviving and to remain. And I think,
yeah, but I think he would have gone, Rich, because the whole thing at the start of the film, the whole setup is he's a fighter pilot, a scientist, an engineer, a pioneer. He talks about journeyman, he talks about exploring and how we're stuck in one place. He doesn't want to be a farmer anymore. And someone comes to him and says, we've got a round trip for you. It's going to be 2 to 5 years and you're going to save humanity. And you'll be back in 5 years. It's only because there's a series of mistakes and complications that mean he isn't back in that time. And he would have gone. He would have gone because he wants to save his family, and that's the only way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole Michael Caine trick, I just find a bit, and then it never really gets resolved, because his daughter, Anne Hathaway, then just goes, I didn't know that was the case.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing to it. Whereas if it was suddenly, because then Murph goes on to go, well, I'm going to fix it anyway. But if she was at dire straits and didn't know how to do it, then there's something in that. I agree with you about the heart, though, where you do need to see the effects of how relativity and he's promised to come back, and then you do see Murph and his son grow up and become older. But then that whole reveal at the end of, oh, she's alive and she's really old.
She's really old on a space station, and just...
I loved it. I absolutely loved that bit. I was welling up. I was like, how?
No, it's emotional.
Like,
it's
how
emotional.
mad?
I think you need it.
Like, I was thinking, I was like, how mad would it be to be like me, dead, super, super, super old woman, and looking at me dad, dead young? Do you know what I mean? Like, that is amazing. I like all that time fucking thing gets me going. I love it. Yeah, relativity. I just
like. All right, so I think we're all kind of in different places on the film, and that's fair enough. Ben, actually, I'll save that to the science bit. I'll get to that in the science bit. So let's talk a little bit about Christopher Nolan and what he does and some of the choices he made with this film. Why do you think that he put so much effort into telling two sides of the story instead of just focusing on one through line?
Well, it wasn't his script originally, was it? That was a big thing. The chief scientist, called Kip Thorne, it was his script, and they couldn't get it made. So he contacted a producer who said, well, I've got these two people who'll take your film and get it made. And Christopher Nolan and his brother got handed this guy's script, and they effectively changed the whole story, but kept the science. So that's why there's a science film and a film about family that have been mashed together. So that makes where sense. I think two things.
I've got one other thing I want to bring up before we move on to science, and it's something that I think, as much as I like him, I think it is really a detriment to the film. I don't like that Dr. Mann is played by Matt Damon. I feel it's a very odd casting choice when there is a moment where he's literally wrapped up like a present, and they open his little bag of sleep, and jumps out, and it's like, surprise, it's Matt Damon. And I'm just a bit, I think if that was a lesser known actor, it would have had more of an impact and feel like less of a trick. If you get that, I feel like I meant to go, hey, look, it's Matt Damon in this really serious space drama. So I felt it was a bit like stunt casting in a way. Did it take you out the film at all, guys, or were you totally cool with Matt Damon rocking up?
I think, maybe for like a second, I was like, oh, Matt Damon's in it, but then just kind of got back into the film. So I want to, I'm all for like critiquing the film, but I just want to celebrate this movie so much.
Go on, Rach. So you celebrate it. Go on.
Because,
talk about it. What you feel about it.
I just think, from watching documentaries, and we will talk about science and stuff, I just think it's quite I just think it's a masterpiece. I just think I've never experienced a film like it, really. And I just think to exist on all these different worlds and to merge them all, I don't want to, I'd rather not go, oh, and then Matt Damon was in it. Do you know what I mean? Because it was a bit like, oh, Matt Damon's in it, but it really didn't bother me. Do you know what I mean? I didn't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It was just like
the first time I watched it. No, sorry, Rich. Go on.
Yeah, go on. No, go on, mate.
I was going to say the first time I watched it, I did do what Rich said and went, "Oh, fucking hell, it's Matt Damon." And then, but then he is quite good in it. I think he acts really well and plays the part really well.
They didn't. His name wasn't on any of the casting. I didn't know he was in it. If I knew Matt Damon was in it, I would have been like, that's fine. I know Matt Damon's in it. I think it was the fact they tried to hide it as if like, here's a secret, Matt Damon's in this film. It just kind of sucked me out. Like he doesn't turn up for like an hour and 45 minutes into the film. And
but do you reckon if you knew he was coming in, you'd be waiting for the moment Matt Damon turned up?
There's a possibility of that as well. I don't know. I just think in general, if it was me, I would have cast a lesser known actor But that's just, like Tomo says, that's part and parcel. That's just something that took me out of the film. But all in all, I do want to make it quite clear, though. After a second watching, I did find that I had a lot more love and enjoyment from this than I did the first time. I did take a lot more out of it. And I will say that little, what's his name? Tora?
Tars.
That fucking robot. Yes.
Mate, that moment when he like flips through the ocean and he's got Anne Hathaway, like that is so cool. Just fucking grabs her easy.
More of that.
And apparently that was like a puppet, wasn't it? That was used.
Practical, mate.
Practical puppet.
Yeah, all practical effects. One of the issues that I had with
Bill Irwin, that was his name.
I got one thought about the robot, something that was niggling at me. Every time the robot spoke, I was like, who said that? There was something in the robot's voice that there was no indication on the robot, like lights don't blink when he speaks. Like there's no like red line that would normally tell you that's the robot speaking. So there were times I'd hear the robot voice and I'd be like, where's that voice coming from?
Yeah.
Which I thought was straight. It's obviously a choice from Chris Nolan to be like, it wouldn't have a light on it like fucking Kit from Knight Rider. But there were moments when I was like, for me, I was like, that was an interesting choice. I would have liked it if you had like a little face or something.
I found that, Rich, when the two of them got together and they were having conversations, because I was a bit like, I've forgotten what Tars sounds like here.
Yeah. I think that was clearly a choice on Nolan, though, being like, I'm a science guy. Let's keep this as... just to pause the video, I've got a thing saying we've got 9.5 minutes left of time.
Okay. We'll
I'll set it up.
We're back. Sorry, everyone. We had a slight technical hitch, but we have returned. Just finishing talking about Interstellar. Rach, you mentioned him earlier. The guy has become a living legend in Hollywood. Rach, talk to us a little bit about Hans Zimmer and the role that you think he plays in this film.
Well, yeah, huge. I mean, I don't think he was given, correct me if any of you know more about it, but I don't think he was given much information about the film. I think he just got like literally a page of like a synopsis of what it was about. And literally from that, he, created what he created. And one thing I do know, what he did apply to the kind of technique of his score is that he recorded everything at a tempo of 1 beat per second. So basically 60 beats in a minute to kind of precisely match that passage of time. So when you listen back to the music, it is literally just that constant ticking away of time. And I think you really feel that, like, watching the movie again last night, that scene when he's trying to connect to the circle and station, that build up of tension. And I think without that music, you just would have just seen this little swirly thing and Matthew McConaughey going, oh my god. But because of that music, and I've seen him not live, but I've seen a live concert on I think it's on Netflix actually. It's just awesome, mate. He's got like hundreds of these outstanding musicians just all coming together like an army to create this masterpiece of music, and it's stunning to watch when you see it in concert. I'd love to see him live, but I think the film would be very different if it wasn't his music.
We are locked.
Easing up! Easy. Retro thrusters. Main engines on. Pushing out of orbit. Come on, baby.
I 100%
favorite.
agree.
It's my favorite piece of his music. You know,
Yes.
the main theme from this. I was going to say, Rich, as well. I think he intentionally. I mean, this is. I'm probably reading too much into it, but the main theme is in 3/4, and now I might be reading too much into it, but that is pretty significant. Three beats in a bar is pretty significant because they're talking about a 3-dimensional world, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, probably reading too much into it, but it's obviously a conscious decision for him to write a piece of music in 3/4.
Yeah, it wouldn't
Let's
surprise
go with
me.
it. Let's go with it,
Wouldn't
mate.
surprise me.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you. I think the music in this film is magnificent. It really is excellent. So, guys, I think that's enough of us debating Interstellar. I think it's time we got a little bit deep and went over to Professor Ben Cosgrove and fired some science questions. Before we start, Rach, you messaged me the other day saying, Rich, you got any questions for Ben? And I was like, no, not really. And then after watching it today,
You've got loads.
I've got one. I've got one
right.
question, Ben, that I'm struggling with. If you can help me out.
Yeah, go on. I'll try.
Before we hand over to the astrophysicist, there's a quote here from Kip Thorne, who we briefly mentioned, and he says, before obviously agreeing to this project and doing it, he said that he would make sure that nothing would violate established physical laws and that all wild speculations would spring from science and not from the creative mind of the screenwriters. So basically, he wanted to make sure that the science was legit. And I think if we take it from there, Ben, do you agree? Did he achieve that?
Kip Thorne's life work, right, is effectively, in summary, he's been trying to prove his whole life that wormholes don't and can't exist, right? And when he wrote the original sort of plot synopsis of the film, he, at the time, couldn't do it. He couldn't prove that wormholes couldn't exist. So that left one opportunity that, well, wormholes can and do exist. And that is kind of the springboard of where this film then goes, because it doesn't violate any laws of physics. And because it's quite easy to disprove something because you test for it. And obviously we can't test over grand distances yet. I'm talking intergalactic distances. We can't sort of test that sort of physics across those sort of barriers. And because we can't do that, we have to assume for now that wormholes do exist and can exist.
Yes.
All right. I'm saying this is the thing, right? The science in this film makes, when it sets it up, the science, I'm like, oh, I'm in this. You're going by like a scientific basis, and they fly off in a rocket ship and they go off. And I'm like, this is really cool. And then halfway through, it turns out they actually have their own little mini rocket ship that is capable of entering an atmosphere, landing on the ground, and then exiting the atmosphere and just flying off again like a little, like, Star Trek ship. So, like, why do they fly off in like a big super regular NASA rocket when they've got little jet ships that can just take off into the atmosphere?
Yeah, that goes back to what they say earlier in the film, Rich, where NASA's been discontinued, hasn't it? So all the resources they've got left will be to produce one rocket using a jet propulsion system. That's all they've got, because the rest of their technology is out there already.
So the little ship they've got, the rovers, I think they call them.
Yeah.
So that, like you're saying, that's like, because in my head, I'm like, why don't they all just get in a giant rover, build a big one of them, and then you can just fly around in planets and shoot back up again and you're sound? But is that me not using my science brain?
Well, it's not you not using your science brain. The reason that jet engines, propulsion engines work so well on Earth is because Earth's gravity is quite heavy, right? Mm-hmm. We have to use a lot of fuel to get not only people, which weigh quite a lot, but all the equipment and everything. So if you watch it, when you see the rocket detach, and that is just simply because they're just holding fuel to burn, right? That is the same as how we use rocket propulsion now. From looking at what they then do when they land on the water planet and all those other little pods, they will be far beyond what they could have produced on Earth unless we were at the golden age or whatever it was before society went in a downturn, right?
Yeah.
And that would have needed massive amounts of funding, you know, and it would have been more expensive for them to fly up there, bring the whole thing back down to Earth, rather than to use the thing that's already up there.
Ben, I will buy that. Yeah, man,
Okay.
that actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah, man. Thank you. That was my big science question answered.
Yes, mate.
Well, all right. So let me turn it around on you two then. So, do you understand the concept of 3 dimensions, right? So you're aware that we live in a 3-dimensional world.
Yes. Now, in
Yes.
the film, they summarise that we, as a human race, will eventually evolve to beings that can live in a 5 dimensions. Is that what they say?
Yeah, they don't necessarily say that we'll live in a 5-dimension world, but my thing to you is we already live in a 4-dimensional world.
Okay, right. I'm just gonna put pause on you because I remember years ago, Ben, me and you had a very late night to the early hours of the morning drinking a bottle of rum, and you explained to me 5 dimensions. And I think,
well, at that time, Rich, I was explaining nth dimensions to you, so you can have an infinite number of dimensions. But yeah, go on.
And I remember at the time, at a bottle of that rum later, I was going, yeah, I totally get what you're saying to me right now. But in the broad day of light, I can't get my head round it, the dimensions.
Right. Well, all right, let me tell you this. 4 dimensions is quite easy. So Neil deGrasse Tyson explains it quite well, right? If us 3 wanted to meet up, I couldn't just give you a place, could I?
What do you mean?
If I said to you, us 3, let's meet up. Should we meet at the Arts Bar?
Oh, I'd need the time and I'd need other things. Yeah, of course.
You'd need a time.
Yeah.
Right. So actually, there's 4 coordinates. There's 4 pieces of information you need for for humans, right?
Okay. What are they?
Well, they're your 3 spatial dimensions. So how we move forward, back, up, down, left, and right.
Yeah.
And then you need a time. You need a time coordinate as well.
That's your 4th dimension. Okay.
There's your 4, right? So suddenly we've gone from you understand that there's 3 dimensions to now, it turns out we actually live in a 4-dimensional world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, what if my easiest way to describe it would be to you, let's imagine you're looking at Google Maps, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had Google Maps of the whole of Earth, but there was another feature that you could scroll through, and it was time, and you could see how different how the Earth looked throughout time. But that's just a parameter that you're changing.
Yeah.
You would be then living in a 5th-dimensional space because you're observing 4 dimensions.
Of it, so
you're outside the 4th dimension.
You're outside the 4 dimensions, looking in to seeing all 3 dimensions of space and the 4th dimension of time. So that means that you would have to be observing from a 5th dimension,
like Matthew McConaughey
in the bookcase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. And do you know what? I know a lot of people have issues with that 5th dimension bookcase section. I loved it. Once again, I absolutely loved it because I was like, you know what? It really, it scared me that moment because one, I was like, he's going into a black hole. That's just absolutely insane. And what I know nobody knows what will happen if anyone went into a black hole. We can speculate, I assume. But so I was quite excited that oh my God, for the first time, I'm witnessing on cinema in someone actually going into a black hole. So I was quite intrigued of how are they going to do this?
With a library.
But not necessarily just a library, but I think the whole journey and the stillness and his breathing and the his voice and that gentle process and where's he going? Do
you know what? I'd wholeheartedly agree with you. I just wish they had explained that it wasn't a black hole, and
Okay.
it was actually a
world
capsule or a vehicle that allows you to interact in 5 dimensions, right?
Okay.
If they just said that, and the throwaway line would be, that's what it is, but to create something like that, you need the gravity of a black hole, right? And if they just said that, fine.
You'd be sound.
But we do know what happens when you go into a black hole. You keep forever perceiving that you're going into a black hole because time gets so distorted. We've talked about it before, Rich. It's called spaghettification, right? That is the scientific term. And you stretch every atom, every molecule, every quark, every bit of energy from you gets stretched to nothing. But because relativity in time is so great there, you would constantly think, oh shit, I'm going into a black hole.
That's a living nightmare, Ben. You have just described...
That's terrifying.
Tomo, that's the most horrific thing we've ever heard on the podcast.
That's absolutely terrifying. I feel like I want to be sick.
But you say that, but you would never know. Like,
yeah, you wouldn't know though. You just be feeling like you go. Do you know on the top of a roller coaster when you're about to go over? You're telling me that feeling for infinity.
Yeah, but you wouldn't perceive it as infinity. It's only us observers who would see. For you, it would feel like one moment.
I'd know though. I would. My mind is so powerful. I'd be like, "Fuck off."
Just going back to one thing I want to talk about in the library scene that blew my mind was that was a practical set.
Oh, yes.
McConaughey's on wires, and they built like lights through. Like, it's like a practical set, and even a lot of the actual space projection and stuff in this that they created, a lot of it is visual effects of using different lights and different sources, as opposed to just somebody sat at a computer going, "Here's a space."
Oh, I love that even more. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
No, have you seen that? Have you seen that interview with Anne Hathaway that she said, "Oh yeah, some zero gravity scenes. I'm just on one leg, balancing on one leg and doing this."
Yeah, nice.
Quickly, Anne Hathaway, just for 1 second. She makes a lot of mistakes in this movie. I would not want her on my spaceship, mate.
Yeah, she does my head in this film. She's the one thing that frustrates me throughout of it. All of her decisions, her choices, like taking far too long on that water planet. Mate, like, get on the ship.
How about the fella who's left on a ship alone for 23 years and he's just sound? Doesn't have a bad word to say about it. Everyone comes back and he's like, "Oh, I was waiting a while." I was expecting there to be like a moment when in his bedroom you'd see like a noose hanging up or something.
Yeah, no, 23 years is long. They don't really touch upon that much.
Guy was alone for 23 years. Anne Hathaway can't get over her boyfriend and she's crying her eyes out. That fucker's been here for 23 years on his own.
I want to see that movie. I want to see his 23 years.
Him on his own, like Castaway, but just that guy. Brilliant.
That's like they say that Michael Collins was the loneliest man to ever exist, and he was the third man on the Apollo mission when they went to the moon, and he was just in the capsule, just by himself. But everybody else, every other human, was the furthest away ever, because they've never done it since where they've left one person.
Yeah,
it's always seemed to take. I was going to say to you as well, the main thing takeaway from this film is that they actually invented a new bit of science, pretty much. Well, not invented, but the model that they use for the black hole had never been created before because they'd never had a budget for it. And Chris Nolan used some of the film budget to plug in the numbers of what a black hole would look like if you were to go near it, and we'd never seen it before. And so that whole yellow disc
with the line through it.
Well, the line through it is what you would see, and the line around it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just because the other side has been distorted because of the gravity. Okay. So it actually looks like Saturn. You imagine there's one disc spinning in, but because of the gravity, it stretches the other side and it bends around the star. Wow. So you see a whole halo as well as a disc.
Wow.
So them numbers so they were legit scientific equation numbers.
They were the models. They were the models that they had at the time, and they obviously you need a supercomputer and you need to book time on it and blah blah blah. But when a film studio goes, well, listen, we'll give you $5 million to give us an hour on this supercomputer, and they've gone, all right, well, we'll just bunk it off. We'll just get it printed out for you. There you go.
Awesome. That's so awesome. Amazing.
I've got to say, Ben, you've really helped actually this week with this film and me digest some of the science and actually give me a little bit of a wider understanding of it. And I will say, I was wrong, Rach, the first time I saw this film to slate it. It's got a lot more going on in it than I first gave it credit.
Yes, mate. Yes. Have you got anything else, Benny boy?
Yeah, my main things aren't actually with the physics. It's with the blight, to be honest.
Okay.
Yes, that's the other thing, the blight.
I don't mind the blight while it's on Earth, but you can't tell me that when he's giving you, it's quite complicated, right? This whole thing of them developing a way to counteract gravity and shifting a whole thing into space and blah blah blah. My question is, why have they just got grass and shit in the new spaceships at the end? Where's that come from?
Oh, on the new station.
On the new stations, where's all that come from?
If they were able to create some form of artificial grass, then why do they have to leave Earth in the first place? Because they could just grow it.
If you're telling me that's fine because they can't grow it on Earth and they can only grow it in a lab, let's go to Mars. It's well closer.
Yeah.
The only argument I can come with that is that it's just all artificial, made of plastic, and it doesn't actually have any. Do they ever say that? Do you ever say that it's real?
I don't think they do.
No, but then where's the oxygen coming from?
That's a good point. That's a
You
real
need-
good point.
You need plants to produce oxygen.
Yeah.
So,
But
they leave out all of her building it. They kind of just end with her going, "I figured, Eureka!" And then it cuts to 70 years later, and it's like, I solved every problem in the world, and we don't need to talk about it.
Amazing. Yes. And the way it bent round, love that.
Yeah, no, that was cool. Yeah.
That's once you've kind of solved the gravity thing, that's all fine. I don't mind that spaceships can bend under their own weight and all that sort of stuff. Don't mind any of that. You can produce a spaceship the size of the moon and just lift off if you've solved gravity. I don't have a problem with any of that. My thing is, you're telling me that we don't have any plants on Earth anymore and everyone's dying, and we get to space. What's happened to everybody's asthma that they had?
Yeah.
Yeah, the space asthma. What was it? So the blight, was the blight also causing the dust? Where did the dust come from?
Yeah, so the dust comes from imagining all the crops that we have suddenly in Earth. Imagine they just died.
So it's all just the debris.
Everything would turn into desert immediately.
Yeah.
Well, apparently there was. Didn't this happen? This was a real life.
Yeah, blight's
thing.
a real thing. They don't call it blight.
Yeah, no,
They don't
because
call it blight, no.
then people at the very beginning who are going, like, they're quite old and they're talking about the blight.
They're in the barn at the end on the telly.
They're real survivors of like a blight that happened like back in 2012, like that were actually part of like a little local disaster. I don't know the details of it, so they are actual. So what they're talking about is real.
You have stuff like the potato famine, famously, which was like, but that was one particular crop or one vegetable. The idea that every single plant, is it every plant form every form of plant on the planet is dead?
It's it's something a little bit more complicated than that. It's every form of grain. So anything that you can use to make bread, anything that you can bulk up like that and produce massive amounts of food from something small. So your wheats, your grains, your legumes, all that sort of stuff's gone. So you'd probably still have things like root vegetables, but that isn't enough to rear meat with and things like that. So it does suddenly get more complicated. But yeah, it just annoyed me that the only like, if it was all, I don't know, like they should have been just explained a little bit better to me, that last little bit.
Fair point, Benny. Fair point. Should we move on?
I think we've spoken enough science. It's the time of the show that we've all been waiting for. Tomo, get them out. It's your top 10 internet tits.
Right, guys. So this week I have gone for top 10 greatest scientific discoveries in the last decade.
Oh,
Whoa.
I
all
thought,
right, okay.
I thought I'd keep it in with the science, and Ben,
Yeah.
obviously comment on them and add to them if you think there's.
Absolutely.
This
Yeah.
is from newscientist.com, so they're pretty legit. So let's go from number 10. And they're all different. So basically, they're not all like spacey stuff. They're covering physics, genetics, archaeology, technology. So here we go, guys. Number 10 is Richard III. So do you remember in Leicester?
They found him in a parking
In the
garage.
car park. So
Yeah.
basically, a car park in Leicester, UK, hosted a scene worthy of Shakespeare. 2012, a team of geneticists and historians announced that they has excavated the remains of Richard III, former King of England, and the skeleton showed signs of spinal curvature, and DNA evidence from his descendants supported the find. So that is number 10. What do you think about that?
Good, very good. I'm not entirely sure the scientific discovery of it. Great archaeological discovery, 100%.
100%. At number 9, we've got face transplants. So the first full face transplant took place in 2010 in a 24-hour operation. It was a Spanish farmer who basically accidentally shot himself and had the remains of his face removed, leaving just his eyeballs and his tongue, and the rest was replaced by the entire face of a dead donor. Do you know anything about that?
No, but I'm wholeheartedly behind it.
I'm all about new face off. Nick Cage.
If you could get a new face, whose face would you get?
Nick Cage.
Nick.
Yeah, not a joke. I would.
Yeah, fair enough.
Who would you get, Ben?
I don't know, mate. You've sprung this on me. Who do you have?
Probably Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's hard, isn't he?
All right. Well, if your face is going, I'll have your face then.
Okay, nice.
Oh.
keep me in the loop. Okay, number 8 now. Proxima Centauri B. Is that how you say it?
It's a planet,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's one of the closest planets.
So basically, when the decade began, we knew of about 450 planets beyond the solar system, and now it's 4,000. And the most significant of all was the discovery of Proxima. It's 4.2 light years from Earth. Do you know
what was so special about it?
The fact that it's so close.
So close. It's the closest one to Earth. I mean, I don't know what its conditions are like. I mean, do you know of any, like, off the top of your head, Ben, exoplanets that are possible?
Yeah, absolutely. The reason we've discovered them is there's a special satellite called the Kepler telescope, and it's up in space. And basically, all it does is it looks at distant stars and just waits for their brightness to change, right? And depending on how much it dims, we can tell how big the planet is.
What?
Right? Yeah. Because of how much we know, if we observe a star for X amount of time, we know how big it is based on the light that it produces and the emissions, the chemical emissions. We can see what sort of stage of life it is. And so this Kepler telescope we've had to do all this sort of stuff from Earth, and using like the Hubble could kind of do it, but not very well. But when the Kepler launched, it was like exponential. And you're saying we've got 900. I think they have about 8,000 to 100,000 bits of data, but it takes so long for them to go through and analyze it all that they can only confirm that there's maybe 900. Many of them are called super Earths, where they're about twice the size to 1.5 times the size of Earth. But there's quite a few that have water on and sit in the kind of Goldilocks zone. Anyway, whatever.
Is that what it's
you
called?
Can read about it, guys.
Is it called the Goldilocks zone if it's just right?
Nice. I like
That's
that.
great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean, there's got to be other There's got to be other people out there, not people, something. Do you know what I mean? There just has to be, guys.
Well,
no, yeah, 100%.
the universe is infinite, so it's kind of
100%.
Gotta be, innit?
The fact that when you look at every single star, they each have its own planetary system, whether that's 1, 4, 8. You know, for every single star, there's a planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate. That's how it works. No, I was going to say, do you know, our planet, our solar system, we thought was very generic, right? And you look at the sun, and we have our rocky planets close to the sun, and then we have gassy planets further away, right? And we kind of think that the model for that is because if you imagine a record player, and the faster you spin it, the heavier stuff stays in the middle and the lighter stuff goes towards the edge, right? Just kind of basic science knowledge. And then as soon as we started looking at other solar systems, it turns out that most of them are flipped the other way around. So we have no idea why that happens. And so, you know, I love that sort of stuff, because then it's like, well, it turns out we don't know anything about how other planetary systems form. And
yeah, and maybe because of how ours is, that's why we're here. Maybe.
Yeah, but there will be planets that are slap bang like us, 100%.
Number 7 then is quantum supremacy. Quantum supremacy. Efforts to develop quantum computers gradually ramped up this decade, culminating with Google's announcement of quantum supremacy in 2019. Basically, the firm developed the first quantum computer capable of performing a calculation that no classical supercomputer on Earth can match. What have I just said?
You've basically said, so the way computers work at the moment is, you know, that they have, well, if we take it back to things we all understand, you know, Nintendo 64?
Yeah.
I'm aware.
So that's got 64 bits, right, of memory, okay? But that is pretty much how we build everything, right? Now, everything's based on megabytes, gigabytes, everything, blah, blah, blah. If you have a quantum computer that would have 64 bits in it, it can do 64 to the power of 64 calculations, as opposed to 64 calculations as to what it would be if we were to build it now. So we have it can suddenly the way you develop, as soon as you get a quantum computer that can do these calculations, exponentially will develop new quantum computers, because suddenly they can do all the calculations that it takes a supercomputer underneath the Sahara Desert to do. They can do it in seconds, because they can run calculations exponentially.
And now they've got it. They've got one.
They've got one. So it just takes carry on developing it, Google.
Amazing.
Good effort.
Thank you, Ben, for that. Number 6, Denisovans. Am I saying that right? Does anyone know what that is? Basically, researchers announced the discovery of a human finger bone that is genetically distinct both from modern humans and Neanderthals in 2010, which basically complicates the ancestral story. So they named this new species the Denisovans. So it's after a Denisova cave in Siberia and Russia, where the bone was found. And basically later discoveries in the cave included more remains of these mysterious people, including the 2018 announcement of a hybrid with a Neanderthal mother and a Denisovan father. So basically the two of them hooked up. And genetic analysis has basically revealed that there are people actually today living that carry this Denisovan DNA, which is quite cool.
What number's that, Rich?
Number 6, mate.
Bump that down.
Yeah, not bothered.
Yeah, not into that one. Good. Well done on them. That is a great discovery, but nah, not interested.
Thank you, Ben. Number 5, Layla's gene therapy. So in 2015, a 1-year-old little girl received a cancer treatment unlike any other. Doctors at Great Ormond Street Hospital in London gave baby Layla immune cells from a donor that they had genetically modified to destroy the cells which were causing her leukemia, saving her life. So it was a gene therapy, which is awesome. So that's number
Big
5.
fan.
So that was a huge discovery within, when was that? 2015. Number 4, AlphaGo. This is within the decades, it's been dominated by advances in artificial intelligence. But the pinnacle of machine achievement was this AlphaGo. So basically, it's a software developed by DeepMind. Now, remember the board game Go? I think there was a documentary on it on Netflix. And basically, Lisa Dahl, who played this game Go, played a computer, and this computer won him. And it was like a huge moment in technology in a 4-1 match in 2016. You've never seen that documentary? Check it out. I think it's called Go on Netflix, and basically this dude plays this computer, and it's amazing.
Okay.
Number 3, gravitational waves. Ben, I'll hand that over to you.
That should probably be number 1.
Yeah.
If I'm honest. Well, I'll see what the other 2 are, but it's a pretty big discovery. Everyone was made up when they got it. It proves that we kind of were right, and scientists like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long and short of it, every force that interacts with something in the universe, doesn't matter if you're looking at quantum or relativity, they interact with waves, and gravity, which we can kind of measure, the thing that we interact with almost every day, we could never detect waves, and so we kind of knew they existed because they had to fit our models of how it works. But because gravitational waves are so weak, the precise nature of the experiments, incredible work.
Amazing. Number 2 then is CRISPR. So basically, the full potential of genetic engineering was unlocked in 2012 with the cheap and easy CRISPR system for editing DNA. So its use has since exploded, unfortunately, including the widely condemned creation of the first gene-edited babies in China.
Dino DNA.
Dino
It's
DNA.
Jurassic Park, mate.
But with China babies.
With a Chinese baby.
Yeah. So genetically engineered, edited little babies.
Super
How do
soldiers.
we feel
I'm all
about
happy. I'm all happy for stem cell research and curing babies of cancer. Give me all of that all day, every day. Genetically making humans, I don't know if I'm into it, guys.
It's like we'll soon see on like Instagram stories, and they're like, look at my baby I've made.
Yeah, mate. I think more about Prometheus, mate. Stealing fire from the gods. It's not man's place to play God, mate.
No.
Leave the creation. What was it? Jeff Goldblum said you were too busy figuring out whether or not you could do it instead of sitting back and thinking whether or not you should. You know what I'm saying?
I think nature's done a pretty good job, right, of getting us this far. And with a bit of help of let's cure some horrible diseases, I think we're all right, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We're all right.
I'm all right. I could do with a new job, but yeah, I'm all right. Tomo, does that bring us to number 1?
Number 1, last one. So it is the Higgs
boson, mate.
Higgs boson, mate.
Higgs boson,
So
yeah.
go on, mate. You'll explain it better than I will.
Do you know what? Like, if this wasn't in the list, and what year did this get discovered, Rich? Was it 2010?
2012.
All right. Higgs had been working on this since 1960s, man. He spent a whole lot of time working on this. And Liverpool's got a little space in the discovery of this. They built a reactor as part of CERN, which is where the Higgs boson was discovered. The Higgs boson is important because it dictates why we have mass. Okay, so why things weigh stuff and are made out of stuff. Because the standard model that we use for particles, we're talking about, I was telling you about these waves, the forces that interact, the fundamentals of everything. There's nothing in there that explains why things have mass, right? It doesn't fit. that model doesn't work as to why we have a mass, like why electrons and protons and all these things have mass. They should just be energy that exist, right? But they don't. They have a mass. We can detect it, we can measure it, and for the longest time we didn't know. Well, we knew why, but we didn't know how it worked. And so as soon as we discovered this Higgs boson, that proves that we know nothing about how quantum mechanics works, and that's a big deal. If we can conquer the Higgs boson, if we can truly understand it, that is the key to unlocking faster than light travel, because you can remove mass. You'd be able to remove mass, and that's the only thing stopping us going faster than light now. Is if you have a mass, you can't travel faster than light, but if you can remove that, suddenly you can go faster than light. We'd be able to potentially go back in time. These things are infinite. The possibilities of what we can do if we can master the Higgs boson, they're infinite.
Wow. So there you go. That's it.
And that was Rach's very interesting this week, Rach. Your top 10 science facts. Nailed it.
Man. It's the time, Rich. It's the one and only.
Guys, it's the titular part of the show. Get ready, get steady, everybody remake. So, guys, who wants to start this week?
I don't mind starting because I've just literally thrown mine together before we came on air.
Yes. Go on, Benny.
So I'm going to do and I'm going to probably nick Rich's idea potentially because it's based on a pun, as always. It's going to be a rom-com in space, and it's going to be a remake of A Streetcar Named Desire. And the whole plot is that someone's going to be interstellar, and they're just going to shout Stellar at the end.
I get the whole joke. Tomo, is that your remake?
The pun is, but not the build-up. Right, mine is.
All right.
Mine is. It's the creators of The Simpsons. So basically, it's an animated movie. And basically, like Interstellar, the world's gone to shit, yeah? But unlike Interstellar, they've actually found a planet for everyone to live on. Yeah. So the only problem is that the spaceships and, you know, the stations that they've got ready to kind of transport everyone to the new Earth, they haven't got enough room for everyone. So they're like, what are we going to do with all the other people that can't come? So they decide to have a big Earth meeting with all the leaders, and a Simpson version of Donald Trump and Boris Johnson are there. And they obviously are in control of the meeting and come up with the idea, well, let's just kill all the people that we don't want to come by poisoning them, and we'll put the poison into Stella. So they put, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so they send out cases of the stuff, free beer for all, and target the people that they want to kill by just sending them a couple of freebies in the post. So there's loads of people at home go, cheers, nice man, drinking the Stella because it's all in the Stella. Finally, they get rid of them. They go on the spaceships, get to the new planet. They're all made up. Final scene, Boris Johnson, Donald Trump. Cheers, have a little sip. Oh, shit. They drank the Stella. Interstellar.
Oh, mate, that was brutal.
It's genius.
Interstellar. I love it.
Rich.
My remake, guys, is I've decided to remake the film that I wanted to see. So this is directed by Michael Bay. It is titled Interstellar, Regenesis, ! Resurrection. All right. And in this movie, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson stars as Coop, who is a farmer down on his luck, who meets up with beautiful yet wily scientist Megan Fox. And they board a spaceship together and fly into space and on various planets, get into various mishaps. Of course, the robot's got a wisecracking personality. Probably the voice of, let's say, what's the little fella called? Kevin Hart. Let's have that in it. There's definitely aliens. They meet some Martians along the way. You know that at one point The Rock loses his shirt and has a fist fight with a Martian. All of the heart is removed. This is nothing but a straight edge, ridiculous action platform for Dwayne The Rock Johnson, directed by Michael Bay. That's my remake.
That sounds rich. That sounds like you've made a modern Zathura.
Yes, listen, have you ever seen Armageddon by Michael Bay?
Yeah.
That was a film where instead of training astronauts to drill a hole, they send drillers into space. Imagine that. That's the vibe I'm going with for my Interstellar with Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
You flipped it on its head.
Yeah, mate, we're going balls to the wall. Fun action movie.
Balls to the wall.
I'd watch it. I'd watch it.
I'd watch it. I love The Rock.
Yeah, mate, me too.
Love The Rock.
Megan Fox in a little sexy spacesuit. She's always bent over and camera's always on her ass.
Oh, jeez.
Classic Michael Bay. It's Michael Bay. It's what he does, mate. Imagine it. It'd be beautiful.
He wouldn't cast Megan Fox now. She's too old, Rich.
Oh, you know what? You're probably right. Let's go. Oh, do you know? He likes some young. Who was the girl? What's it? Millie Bobby Brown.
I was going to say Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah. Let's do a classic Michael Bay and sexualise an underage girl. Because that's what the man does. That's not. By the way, this is me slating Michael Bay. I do not support that at all. Just to be clear. Yeah.
So there we go. That's our remakes, guys. Thank you so much. Well done, all. Well done. What an episode that was. That was intense.
Guys, if I was listening to this episode, I'd be like, I learned a lot today.
Yeah,
because I did learn a lot today. That's what I'm trying to say.
Did Ben learn from us?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all the time.
Ben learned the wonderful story of Interstellar, where the government poisons cans of Stella to kill the world's population. Tremendous.
Tremendous. Ben, listen, you've got your own podcast. Before we go, tell us about it.
Oh, yeah. We have a podcast called the Arts Bar Podcast, where we talk absolute nonsense. Basically, once, whenever we want, we release a podcast. The next one coming out is a Taskmaster episode. I got the other three who run the Arts Bar with me, Wilson, Alex, and Jordan, to do a series of tasks. And then I've invited a friend of ours, Andy Roberts, to come in and judge the tasks. It was filmed before the dreaded third lockdown, but we recorded the actual review of the tasks post-lockdown. So it was a lot of fun to make. We also do a thing called Arts Bar Live, which is our current YouTube channel, where we get grassroots musicians to come in. We film them doing an original track and a cover, and that's broadcast on YouTube, and we've hopefully got something good down the pipeline there. And I know you mentioned that we're, the three of us and the Arts Bar, are potentially working on some new stuff coming up. We had a little chat about that in the break there, Rach, didn't we? So
we did.
Hopefully we'll have some... Yeah, man, get some news going over the next few weeks about that. I think that'll be really exciting for the city, especially while we're in lockdown. And hopefully we can get some good stuff coming because of that.
Awesome, mate. Listen, thank you so much for joining us. It's been wicked having
My
you back.
pleasure, guys.
Ben, where can people follow you on the internet? On the
Absolutely,
socials?
yeah. Just jump on our socials, guys. Arts Bar at Liverpool Arts Bar. We're launching our website in a couple of weeks, and that'll be www.liverpoolartsbar.com. And you'll be able to see our blog. That hopefully will get you guys to feature on. Will be a podcast page where we'll have our podcasts side by side and you can listen to them. We'll do all that sort of jazz. That'll be in a couple of weeks. Maybe by the time this episode comes out, actually, hopefully it'll be live, or we'll have a date of that going live.
Yeah, we'll
so check that out. Yeah, and drop us a little message. Something else we're working on, Alex and his friend Andy are running a Man On podcast, which will be a football podcast where they talk about football and men's mental health. They're kind of joining those two.
I shared that to our story, actually.
Yeah, so I've yet to listen to the first episode. They're just finishing editing it and hopefully get that out over the next couple of days.
Awesome.
Rach, where can people follow you?
Wherever they want.
Through the window, I live in here.
Yeah, just come to ours, have a little look through the window. I'll probably be cooking, picking my nose, I don't know. What about you, Rich? Where can they follow you?
Anywhere you like, guys.
Usually the Aldi, isn't it, mate? Or
You can find me at the Aldi, Nights on Smithdown Road. No, in all seriousness, you can follow me at Rich Kelly 999 on the
and
Instagram.
I'm at Rachel Tomo and at Ready Steady Remake. Send in your remakes as well, guys. As ever, follow us, tweet us, share the love, all that, and we'll see you for the next mini ep, because we're doing mini eps now. We did a little Cobra Kai season 3, Wonder Woman. I don't know what we're doing next, but we'll announce it shortly.
I will announce what I'm reviewing right now, Tom.
Oh, there you go.
I will be reviewing the latest Netflix documentary, The Night Stalker.
Yes, I'm going to watch that actually this weekend. Awesome. All right, guys, should we 3, 2, 1 it?
Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
Stay safe.